In this video, I want to share with you 3 mistakes I've made even as an exercise physiologist while preparing for my XTERRA triathlon. Now, the first big one has been not paying enough attention to recovery. And this is really dumb because I make sure with my athletes that we program recovery in and we ensure that we're not going to overtrain. However, I think for me, given that I'd only given myself 8 weeks to prepare for this triathlon, I've been trying to make up for lost time, and as a result, it set me back a week or two as I tried to train through a cold. I was just really run down, end up with a sinus infection. So not a great strategy, and I really should have known better. But it's really important that with your programming, you do factor recovery in. It almost should be programmed into what you're doing, because our recovery is not great. You're not going to be able to run the program itself. And you could have the best program in the world, but if you're not sleeping well, you're not leaving enough time through your training, then you're just not going to get the results that you want. Now, I know some of my athletes do quite well around monitoring sleep with watches and other devices. I just don't like wearing that sort of thing at night, so I haven't really even been monitoring that well. I was kind of just going on feel, and that wasn't enough. What I should also have done was, rather than doing my strength training sessions on the same days as hard rides or runs, I probably should have just utilized my Stretch Yourself Strong stuff to make sure that I'm still getting some strength and performance transfer, but just without that massive central nervous system fatigue and without that load that my body then needs to recover from on those days where I'm doing double sessions. Another really dumb one has not been fueling my sessions well. The worst example is I was out on a ride. My son was doing a coaching session. I decided to do a really hard ride while he was in that session, and I'd only gone out with water, no carbohydrate, no food, and there was still a half-hour wait for him to finish a session and a half-hour drive home. So I didn't eat for over an hour after my session. You should know that carbohydrate glucose within 10-15 minutes of training is one of your keys for recovery. If you can do that straight after training, you're going to recover a lot better. You're going to attenuate that inflammation response to exercise, that immune response to exercise, and it might have been part of why I did actually get a little bit sick as well. So especially when you're training really hard, it's important that you've probably got some sort of glucose carbohydrate on board during the session, because good recovery does really start within the session itself. And a big one that I hadn't really thought of before, and I probably don't think about enough with my athletes, but I will be going forward, is just the toll on stress and other life factors. Like I should factor in that while I'm working in here, I'm also quite active. So I hadn't factored in that to a big day of training. And I also hadn't factored in other activities like surfing, climbing, just doing things with the kids, etc. That all adds to your training load, really. So on the weekend, I was doing things like go for a ride in the morning, I might go for a surf, do some climbing with my daughter, and then do another session in the afternoon. And at 49 years of age, I like to think that that's still okay, but I do need to be aware that that is going to take its toll, and I need to have all those other things I spoke about: recovery, sleep, nutrition, really super dialed in if I can get that done. So that is, going forward, I think with my athletes, that is something that I will factor in to their programming, what their work-life balance is like, and how we can kind of find some way to quantify that in terms of a training load. So I'm sure I'm not alone in making some of these mistakes. I'd like to hear what sort of mistakes you've made, what you've learned from it, but yeah, it's all a learning experience, and please stay tuned. I'll be updating you on where I'm at, because this thing is coming up pretty fast. I'll see you in the next one.